Oh. What's it?
All right,
Okay.
I think we're live.
Okay, great. Yeah, hey guys, this is Sam from Newton Public Library. I'm here with Marty and Sharon and Andrea and Dan, and they all read The Lady from the Black Lagoon. I didn't read it, so I'm just gonna turn it over to them, and they're going to talk about the book. And if you have questions, I will type them in the comments, and I will read them to them. Cool.
All right, so before we get too far, you can read this book on Hoopla. It's available in ebook and audiobook format. So after you hear us talk about it, if you are inclined to want to read it, you can. So the book is The Lady from the Black Lagoon, Hollywood Monsters and the Lost Legacy of Millicent Patrick. And to get us started, just a little background, we'll probably go into more, but Millicent Patrick was one of the first animators at Disney, and she also created the creature from the Black Lagoon design, which is what is in the title, and she did a bunch of other stuff. I really enjoyed this book. I read it really fast because I couldn't put it down because her life was really, really interesting to me, but it's also kind of a sad book. Hollywood did not treat her well, and from what I hear from the author's experiences, it hasn't really changed much since Millicent was in Hollywood. But let's go ahead and hear what other people have to say to get our conversation started. So whoever wants to go.
Well, I'll go ahead and go. Dan is the one who suggested we read this book. He's always loved creatures and all that kind of horror genre. And so I agreed to do it because it was a nonfiction and I did think the topic sounded interesting. With Millicent, she lived at a time when, as a woman, you were not given credit for anything that you did do. And I think I really felt sorry for her in the fact that credit was taken away from her by other men who were jealous of her talent. But she lived her life the way she wanted to, and she didn't care what anybody else thought. And I think that's really wild and crazy. So I really like the book.
I thought it was interesting, the Hearst aspect that they brought in and how mixed up in an early childhood that they were related to the William Hearst family. It was good. I enjoyed it too. I also liked when they were talking about the creature and how they had to make the costume for both in the water and on land, and how they had to have different people in the land. The guy was much taller than the person was in the water. I thought that was interesting.
For me, the book had some negatives and some positives. I didn't like the writing too much. I didn't think it was very elegant, and I do love elegant prose. But the thing I most disliked about it was that she had a tendency to go off on these tangents that didn't really have too much to do with the basic storyline. So I remember thinking about the Hearst, for example. It seemed like we had read 50 pages about the Hearst family and how they established their publishing empire. And that was, kind of related to Millicent, but not so much that we needed to know their whole story, I thought. But there were some positives. I thought the basic story was really interesting. And I liked the way she kind of showed how it's still important. She tied it in with the Me Too movement and showed that in some ways things haven't changed so much for women. And really, I think I have never said this about a book before, but my favorite part was the footnotes. She would throw in all these little footnotes that were just humorous little observations. And really, I thought they were very well written. That was the most fun thing in the whole book for me.
Yeah, I enjoyed those too.
I also had an issue with the tangent sometimes, but I did enjoy how the detail you have about the Hearst mansion does come back toward the very end of her life when she goes back there, and then can't find anything about her father, who I still don't think deserves any credit for anything. But like it kind of, I did like how everything kind of reconnects a little bit here and there. I was really interested in the parts when she worked at Disney. Honestly, I didn't see that part coming. And it made me want to read. There's another book in here. I think we have it. I think Andrea's mentioned it, about the female animators at Disney.
Yeah.
But I was thought it was interesting that Disney wouldn't allow men into the studio where the women worked. Like, they were banished. So
No distractions.
no distractions.
But the women were doing women's work at Disney. They were just doing the inking and coloring. They weren't permitted to do the actual creation of design.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I hadn't read it. Did she, so was she an animator? Did she also write stories, or was she just doing the visual design?
She was an artist. So like in the book, let me dig through. But she like started out as an animator and then got into makeup design, and then that's how she designed the creature. And then she also got into acting.
Yeah.
And it's also probably important to mention that at any time in this book, her name is not Millicent Patrick, because the author mentions multiple times that she has lots of different like names that she's gone by. So to make it easier in the book, she goes by Millicent Patrick in the whole book. Sorry, I'm trying to find.
Yeah, she changed her name so many times.
And she did have quite a lengthy career as an actress, although she never had the lead role, but she was in the background in quite a few different movies.
Yeah, I was really surprised about that. You know, the one thing that they kept referring to was that she was just such a statuesque beauty that, you know, when you had these background roles, all you had to do was sit there and look beautiful. And she went above and beyond and really did that. Makes me kind of want to look up those couple of those movies and see if I can find her in them.
Right.
Also, I will admit I've never watched The Creature from the Black Lagoon, and now I'm mildly tempted.
Yeah. Is it available on Hoopla?
It is not. I don't think so.
Do we have it in the library on a disc at least? No.
No.
I'll have to find it somewhere.
Yeah.
Let me see. I'll look.
Okay.
So she created the creature from the Black Lagoon. That's one of her big claims to fame.
Yes.
She designed it.
Yeah.
Most of the work was hers.
Yeah.
And that meant all the pencil drawings. Now, she did not do the latex work or the molding and that kind of thing, but the design all came from her. And she, with part of her makeup stuff, she did other makeup designs for other movies.
Yeah. And it was so in the book, she goes on a tour called The Lady and the Beast. Is that correct? I might be wrong on that. But she goes on tour to promote the movie as the person who creates it. And that's when she loses her job at Universal because her boss, Bud Westmore, doesn't like that he's not getting any of the credit, even though he didn't really do anything except assign her the job of this movie.
Before she went, she had to promise to give him full credit. But
and that's
people were not really interested in hearing that story.
Yeah, and that was the crazy part for me, was like all the other people, like all the people who went on the tour went to bat for her to keep her job. And basically, because Bud Westmore's family was so famous within Hollywood, that didn't work. And I want to be like, she didn't sabotage your career at all. Like, you're sabotaging yourself by opening your mouth.
Yeah.
Well, she was putting out the party line of what all Bob, Westmore wanted. But the problem was they had no control over the people who were then doing the interview and what they said after that.
Yeah.
And, and so for me, you're going on this tour to promote a movie and you come back home and you're fired from everything and not permitted to work in Hollywood again. Yeah. I mean, that is just outrageous. Yeah. I really felt bad for her on her family relationships.
Yeah.
How just because she lived in Hollywood and chose to work with the movies, with the animation and all that stuff, her family considered her bad, like a
Yeah.
downfallen woman, and they cut all contact, you know. And it wasn't until like her niece and nephew, her niece started contacting her a little bit, that she finally had contact with the family. But yet her parents and her brother and sister never, quote unquote, forgave her. You know, that's just harsh.
Even on her deathbed, she said, God doesn't love me.
Yeah.
You can see how this affected her so much, what her family thought of her all through her life.
Yeah.
And I mean, and then I think like the amount of work she tried to get to have her father have credit then at the end for working on the thing. And I'm like, it was just like, it just is, it's baffling that they mistreated her so badly, and yet she still wants to like do good by them.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I also think sometimes she did succeed with Bud Westmore because of how her father treated her too, because they were, you know, two peas in the same pod.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sort of. And I think she made it that far because she knew how to deal with Bud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
The author does say she was living the life she wanted for most of her years. So there's definitely a lot of positive in the story. She kind of, I guess, just didn't care too much about what people thought of her and did her own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's why I always got when I was reading the book, is that, you know, she dressed the way she wanted to, looked the way she wanted to, and either got married or didn't get married because she wanted to, you know. So from that standpoint, she did have the life she wanted, and she always had all those friends, you know, who were her mainstay, and she had a lot of friends, which I thought was really cool too.
Yeah.
Dan, you have a Black Lagoon t-shirt, right?
Yeah.
Let's see that.
Let's see.
There we go.
Oh, that's great.
I also have my action figure with me too.
Oh, nice. So that you can see they're kind of, that's similar. I mean, it's not exactly the same as the mask that she created, but it's similar.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this shirt is definitely not licensed by Universal, but I'm pretty sure this is. So, but yeah, it's a really enjoyable movie if you haven't seen it. It's definitely, I mean, I'm sure it was terrifying at the time that it came out, but like now you watch it and you're kind of like, oh, this is a little cheesy, but I mean, I really enjoy it. It's a fun thing, and it's also fun because I don't think anything quite like the underwater scenes had ever been done before since that, you know, when that movie came out. So there's some originality, and it really is, I think, the last of the Universal, like true Universal monster films. So, and it's also one that's never been remade.
Really? I've read that Universal has like tried to figure out, like, you know, they've seen what Marvel's done with the Avengers and stuff, and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and they were like trying to figure out how to create maybe like a monster universe that would link all of their monster movies and, you know, make a ton of money like Marvel has done.
Yeah.
So.
And they've I mean, and like Guillermo del Toro, who she talks about in here, who did The Shape of Water and like Hellboy. I mean, you can see the influence of Creature on that film too. So it's fun to watch Creature from the Black Lagoon and then go watch The Shape of Water, just to see like, oh, the movie's really fresh in my mind. Now I'm going to go watch this like other movie that was inspired by this. So
for its time, they really had a lot of technical difficulties filming the underwater scenes. It's pretty amazing what they were able to do.
I need to watch that that first movie she did the makeup or the creature for the Ray Bradbury one.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember what the title is now.
Yeah.
Let's see if
well, now I'm even more intrigued to watch The Creature from the Black Lagoon. I don't know where I'm going to find it, but
oh, yeah, it's not on Hoopla.
Yeah.
So
how much does the book get into, like, gender dynamics in the film industry and the animation industry, maybe even going closer to the present day. Does it touch on that?
Yes.
Yeah, the author talks about her experiences being a producer, like a female producer, and it's not a good experience, I don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the things that was not as well written, is that she kept inserting her story and what's happening now in Hollywood into the story of Millicent. I think she was trying to do it as comparisons that nothing's really changed. Things are still the same. And unfortunately, that's the truth. But sometimes she interrupted Millicent's story
Yeah.
with her own. But yeah, she definitely did talk about it. She had statistics that she had found and stuff like that as comparisons about what's going on now compared to what it had. And not just really
women directors, women producers, still
Mhm.
very low.
And she even talks about how she's fortunate to work with a group of people who are not like the typical Hollywood types. I think was my opinion from the book, is that she's fortunate to have met people who aren't jerks, essentially.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But she also admits that she loves monsters, and so she's in the monster movie genre because and she feels like that she got into it partly because of the creature from the Black Lagoon and Millicent Patrick, and it's really bolstered her to stay in that genre that she likes. Yeah, the author's story is also interesting, don't get me wrong, but sometimes she just kind of inserts herself a little bit.
And she has a cool tattoo.
A bit much.
Oh yeah.
Her whole, when I moved to Los Angeles, this is what happened to me.
Yeah.
Went a little bit off track, I thought.
Yeah.
Well, any other comments?
Well, I hate to admit it, but I think you picked a good one.
Yeah. Once again, Dan gets a good book. Like always, it's just disgusting.
Oh my goodness. Oh, there we go.
Oh, there we are. Awesome.
Yeah. I thought I'd go ahead and share this in case people are wondering what this looks like. This is a still from the movie. And do you guys know what's the creature, just before we wrap up, what's this creature's backstory? Like, what is this, a human that was mutated, or what's the deal?
No, so he is like so they call him the Gill Man, and I think he's essentially like, in the movie they're like a crew and they go to like an archaeological dig essentially, and because they find these fossils of the Gill people, and he's there, and then he falls in love with the female character and tries to kidnap her.
He'd be what, offshoot, genetic offshoot of a fish that didn't quite make it to land totally.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, I mean, it does have, like, I remember watching it as a kid, and I mean, it does have it does have some decent scares every once in a while in it, but it is pretty good. So,
they talk about how well they were able to give a feeling of emotion in the creature.
Yeah.
So would you guys give this book a recommended thumbs up for people to read it?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say maybe 3 out of 5.
3 out of 5.
I would say if you definitely like movie and Hollywood stories, I would definitely read this. Or if you want something that's definitely different, I would read this. But
Cool.
Yeah.
More positives than negatives.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's also pretty short. It's a quick read, and it has some cool pictures in it too.
Yeah.
And people can
There's
find
one
this.
of like Millicent drawing a picture of Kirk Douglas with Kirk Douglas in the picture.
Right.
And people can find- oh, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, while she was on the movies as these extras, in the background, she did a lot of artwork where she was drawing the stars and stuff like that. So she kept busy with her drawing. She was really really good artist herself.
Yeah.
And did you say people can find this on Libby or Hoopla or what?
It's just on Hoopla.
Just on Hoopla? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
And
that's
it's in the, I'm going to say book form and audio form.
cool. You guys listen to
Free with your Newton Public Library card.
And she narrates the audiobook.
Oh,
Oh,
cool.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think we'll sign off unless you guys have anything else to add.
We'll see you next time. Next
right,
month,
see you next
Andrea
time.
and I will be back with something new.
Yes. I guess
I
it's
don't know what.
I have no idea. It's my turn to pick, I guess.
Oh, boy.
Yep.
Okay.
Bye.
All right, bye.
Bye.